Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Coffee and Football, presented by Adam Lowy and the Lowy Law Firm. I'm your host, Blake Monroe, where I'm joined each and every day by Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton. Be sure to tell us where you're checking in from, what you're drinking this morning. Get your questions in. We'll answer a lot of those today. But first, guys, normally we start with football. We're going to switch it up. Talk a little basketball as the Longhorns face Vanderbilt today. And Jerry, I'm going to let you take it away.
Yeah, obviously it's a must-win time for the team itself. If they're on the outside looking in. I can't believe they have a matchup predictor. ESPN has Texas 62.2% chance to win in Nashville against Vanderbilt in the SEC tournament here. But Texas they lost to Vanderbilt earlier this season on the road in Nashville, gave up 86 points doing it. But it's obviously for this team's sake. And the Rodney Terry discussion is different. But for the team's sake, this is obviously must-win game for Texas. They are on the outside looking in. They have to win this game. I think they have a chance to be in the play-in game. They'd have to win 2 games to get to the level where they could not have to play in the play-in game. That means they have to beat Vanderbilt and Texas A&M back-to-back days. And we haven't kind of seen that consistency from Texas in a while this season. So, but everybody's available today. So Kendall Weaver, everybody, SEC, they put out the availability report last night, and Texas put out that everybody is available. Obviously, Vanderbilt has a couple of guys in their rotation. I think their 8th man and 9th man are listed as questionable, but you figure those guys are going to give it a go. Neither one had big games against Texas the first go-round, but Vanderbilt's got a really good offensive coach. They're going to put points on the board, so Texas is going to have to answer. This game should be played in the high 70s. But for this team, it's must win to get in the play-in game. They have a chance to get in the play-in game. I'm still not sure if that would get it done, depending on what else shakes out in these other tournaments. But 2 wins, they'd have to win 2 games in a row to assuredly be in, and that would be beating Vanderbilt and A&M back-to-back days.
When these 2 teams played about a month ago, Jerry, Texas was without Tremont Mark. The guard that Texas is pretty good and adds to the Texas lineup. But frankly, they were out-muscled underneath in this game and then outshot outside in the previous matchup between these 2 teams. Jerry, you talk about need to win 2. I mean, look, are they really, even if they win 2, do you think they're necessarily in?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Why is that? Because, I mean, look, they're 6-10 in conference, dude.
Yeah, they're 6-12. But here's the thing. If you beat Vanderbilt, who's 8-10, and you beat A&M back to back, they'll get in at least a play-in game. They'll get in that scenario. They're 42 in NCAA.net. They would rise quite a bit. That's a couple of quad win games. So yeah, I think if they win 1 today, maybe they get in the play-in game, maybe they don't. I think a lot depends on how everything shakes out in these other conference tournaments. But if they win both games, then yeah, I think they would. Should they be? I mean, is the SEC? I think the SEC is a great league this year. Not good, great league. Is it being overvalued, getting 12 teams in the NCAA tournament? I mean, people could argue that a little bit. But a lot of it's going to depend on what shakes out in this conference tournament with Georgia. With Arkansas. Arkansas's beat Texas twice. Georgia beat Texas. So there's some head-to-head not goods for Texas in there. But if they won back-to-back games in the tournament, I think they'd get in the play-in game.
This is odds to win the SEC tournament. Auburn, the heavy favorite, followed by Florida, Alabama, Tennessee, and then Kentucky closes out your top 5. Texas way down the list at plus 20,000.
Here's what I would say to you guys as you look at that list right there. Texas lost to 3 of the 4 teams below them.
The South Carolina loss was big for them in the tournament.
I mean, it's just brutal. Oklahoma at home, a couple days ago. I mean, the Texas basketball, this is why the NCAA tournament is watered down, Jerry. Texas basketball does not deserve to be in the NCAA tournament. You know, the 32 teams, 20, however many you want, it's too many. You play in teams to 68. I mean, it's just too many. I mean, Texas doesn't deserve to. Texas should be if it were up to me, Texas would be on the edge of getting an NIT bid, and you would actually have the
I
NIT
agree.
mean something.
I agree. You can't lose 6 home games in conference play. By the way,
Get in that you're not a
nah. There's no consistency there. By the way, the Rodney Terry discussion, something totally different here, right? We're kind of in wait mode there. There's 20, I think there's been 20 jobs come open in the college basketball carousel. Last year was 68 because of the trickle down, which was, I think, may have been a record. Right now, there's been 20 so far in this cycle. Obviously, Indiana's open. NC State's open. I hear a lot of Will Wade with NC State, but these things have to follow through too. You just never know. All the agents, everybody positioning themselves right now with all these job openings. But it'll be interesting to see where the coaching carousel goes because one of the big triggers in the coaching carousel was had Scott Drew and had taken Indiana, then that would have opened Baylor. McCaslin might have left Tech to go to Baylor, and things really would have started getting crazy. So if there's does Hubert Davis get to know you're at North Carolina? There's some things out there right now that are going to kind of really start this coaching carousel potentially. Texas and OU both open the same year. I mean, so that's going to be interesting to see. So Chris Weatherford, RT needs the Elite Eight to stay, wouldn't you think? Sweet 16. I mean, if somebody gets to a Sweet 16, you're not gonna fire a coach. So, but the likelihood that's about, I would put it at 1%, 2%.
Jerry, you talk about this. Let me ask you this question. When you talk about 20 jobs being open and who might go where and all this other stuff, where is the portal and the urgency to make a move by a Chris Del Conte or by any of these athletic directors come into play? Because obviously you fire a coach, the kids can go to the portal immediately. They can't necessarily transfer until the summertime. But how does the portal play into I have a great feel for it in football, but how does the portal availability play into when you need to make a coaching change in basketball?
Yeah, I think it's got to be quick. I mean, you got it. Indiana's way behind right now because they, look, some of the coaches you'd want at a program like that are in the NCAA tournament. And that's going to be the question. Now, you've seen college basketball go like FSU hires Luke Laux, Sacramento Kings assistant, former FSU player. Utah hires Alex Jensen, former Utah guy, assistant coach of the Dallas Mavericks. You're starting to see that more in college basketball, and there's a lot of reasons why for that. I think there's no buyout, one, and it's the timing, two, and three, there's something to be said for the pro model entering college athletics, college basketball, those guys having an understanding of it, and then it's also offensive basketball. I mean, it's an offensive world right now in college basketball, and it's going to be. The low possession dinosaur coaches are going to go by the wayside. Some already have, but it's a much more of an offensive game and spacing game, the way the game's called, officiated, the rules. But from a portal standpoint, you got to be quick moving. The portal officially opens up March 25th, which is always the complaint of coaches that are in the NCAA tournament because they're sitting there in the NCAA tournament, the portal's open. Yep. People are contacting their players while they're in the tournament, right? Some of the things we kind of talked about in football this year at the extended playoff now. But so that portal opens March 25th, closes, I believe, April 15th. I might have that backed up. I might have those wrong, but I believe that's the case. So there's a precedent for making a quick move if you can. So it'll be interesting to see if that move is made, when that move is made, how quickly CDC moves. Because I guarantee you this, there's things going on behind the scenes.
Let me ask you this: with as it relates to this job, and if Texas we're waiting to see whether Rodney Terry wins. Today at 2:30 they go up against Vanderbilt. Jerry, there's some talk behind the scenes that Kevin Durant's going to push Royale Ivy as a potential replacement at Texas. Have you heard anything to tell you that that's a realistic possibility, or where are you at on that?
Oh, I think Royale always has support of the Texas Brotherhood of players. He's one of KD's guys, and he is like one of his guys. So it wouldn't surprise. That will not surprise me. There's a small push the last time. I think it'll be maybe a bigger push this time. But it'll be interesting to see. If anything goes there. Royale's a couple of years away. I spoke with somebody that would have real knowledge of this in Houston area. And the thought process in the Rockets organization, he's a couple of years away from being an NBA head coach. They think he is a really bright mind, and he's on the fast track to be an NBA head coach. What he did with the Sudan team in the Olympics, he's had a lot of really good offensive mind. Players really relate to him. So I have no doubt that KD will make a push, but will that have an impact on Texas? I'm not so sure there. I mean, Kevin Durant's not a big money giver. He's a good brand giver for Texas, and I appreciate KD. KD's great for the University of Texas. He is a huge Texas fan. Doesn't matter if he was only there 1 year or not. He helps the program out greatly. He shows up at football games. He does a lot for the university. He wants to be involved, but that'll be interesting to see where it goes.
All right, before we get to Hump Day with Heels here momentarily, first, Bobby, I'm going to let you tell everyone out there about our sponsor today, Adam Lowy and the Lowy Law Firm.
Absolutely. Adam Lowy and the Lowy Law Firm have been helping injured Texans for 2+ decades. Now, just reach out to them if you've been injured in a car wreck, truck wreck, automobile accident of any kind, from motorcycle, ATV to 18-wheeler. If you think you might be due compensation, they'll give you a free no-strings-attached consultation. Again, that's LowyLawFirm.com. Adam, thank you, you and your team, for your sponsorship of Coffee and Football and On Texas Football. Now, Blake Monroe, you can welcome in Tony Hills. By the way, Blake is now 40 years old. He turned 40 yesterday.
I did, Tony.
We got to get a happy birthday from Tony Hills to Blake Monroe to start us off this morning. You know that. Starting his 40s, he's got to start it right.
Listen. You know what? If my man is having a new age experience, you understand? He's approaching another decade, 4 of them to be exact. You know what I mean? And this is going to be the best one. We can't just hit him with the regular happy birthday, man. Listen, this is what we're going to hit you with. We're going to flip the game up. You ready for this, man?
I'm ready.
I want to wish you a happy new year, brother. This is why. You know what I mean? Everybody has birthdays, you know what I mean? Hey, we turn this way, whatever. But only one time a year do people say Happy New Year. Not for you, Blake. Blake, for you, you get 2. Happy New Year, brother. I know when you woke up this morning, your back was a little achy, your knees hurt a little bit, ankles probably popped. That's what being 40 is about. Embrace it. Love it. Because it only goes up from here.
Tony, I appreciate it. Out of all the birthday wishes I got between now and yesterday, that was hands down my favorite. So thank you.
Hey, listen, we strive to be different, Blake, and I know nobody told you Happy New Year. So that's the way we're going. Absolutely.
Hey, Tony, we're a few days away from spring practice starting. So I wanted to ask you about Brandon Baker at right tackle. Potentially, and Andre Kojo, he'll start spring as the number 2 at right tackle. You're going to have some young guys, Nate Kibble, who Texas is very high on, competing at right guard with DJ Campbell. For these young guys, take a young tackle like Brandon Baker. What are going to be the keys for him? I mean, you've been through this first year, penciled in to be a potential starting tackle. What are kind of going to be the keys for him this spring?
The keys for him is going to be not making the same mistake twice. Consistency, right? You got to be able to compete, right? Those are the things that don't take talent, right? We got the effort in the film study, getting into extra reps after practice, all of those particular things. I think for Baker, and I know Flood has been in this long enough, so he understands this. He's just going to have more reps. The more reps that he gets, the better that he'll become as a player. And so, and at the end of the day, understand that there's somebody gunning for your position. So you got to be able to you have to learn how to deal with that pressure as well. So when I look at somebody like Brandon, like at the end of the day, he was a high-star recruit. right? They brought him to the University of Texas, obviously because they believe in him and they believe in his ability. For him, it's just now you going out there and showing the people why Texas brought you in and why Coach Flood thinks that you're the guy, right? Prove that you are the guy, not only to the Texas fans and to your teammates, but prove it to yourself. So I think those are the biggest things. Look, guys, when you're a young player, you don't know what you don't know, right? So the biggest thing is going to be able to see how quickly he's able to put mistakes out of his mind, fix them, and then get back out there like nothing ever happened, because you're going to lose battles. That's the reality. And what happens a lot of times with young guys is they, when the pressure gets on them, man, they crack, and what I mean by crack is you let one mistake matriculate into another one. And all of a sudden now you have a bad practice. It's okay to have a bad rep. It's not okay to have a bad practice. And we got to make sure that he understands that. And I think he will. I think he's going to be a phenomenal guy for Texas. For the other ones that are looking to get that opportunity, man, if you're not up on the depth chart right now, penciled in as a starter, it's your job to go in there and show that you should be, right? So for you got to be having flawless practices. Look, I started and I was also a backup, right? And what I can tell you is that one of the sayings that Mike Tomlin used to always have is no excuses, no explanations, only results, and next man up. So the drop off doesn't happen when an injury happens. You have to be able to go out there and perform as though you are the starter. So if you're a backup, you perform every day as you are the starter. If you're penciled in the starter, you understand that you have to go in there and dominate every single day, and don't let one thing that negatively happened turn into a whole bad practice.
Tony, you look at this and you talk about that. What about other positions? Does that apply to guys that are going to try to go in there? And I mean, DeAndre Moore with a toe injury is apparently out for most of spring. It may sidelined a little bit. Does that same kind of ideal translate to them as well at slot receiver, whether it's Aaron Butler or newcomer like Dalen McCutcheon? Is that the same thought process?
I think it's across the board, Bobby, and great question. I mean, and here's the harsh reality of the business, because, cats are getting paid now. So you are a business professional. So here's the harsh reality about the business. You can't make the club in the tub, and the only ability is availability. And I know in this world of people, wanting to coddle to guys and all of these particular things, that saying those type of things can seem harsh, right? But that's the era that I grew up in, and that was the message that was given to me, and prove me wrong. Like, you can be the greatest talent in the world, but if you're never on the field, how do you help the team? You know what I mean? And I get it. He didn't wake up in the morning and say, hey, I want a toe injury to keep me out all spring. But the reality is, what are we doing? We got to take care of our body, right? So, yeah, it's across the board. Everybody has to have that same mentality. And what happens is this, Bobby, when you have a guy that goes down, that allows another person to step into that position, and that's how starters are made. That's how you come back and you don't get your spot. Ask Drew Bledsoe, right? Like that's how ask Matt McFlynn. You know what I mean? He signed a multi-million-dollar contract just for Russell Wilson, a 5th-round draft pick, to come and take his spot, and the rest is history. Injuries happen. It's a part of the game. That's another battle for us as athletes, is to be able to make sure that we're putting our body and we're doing the right things for our body so that we're available. But yes, to answer your question, that's a long way around it. It's across the board.
You can't make the club in the tub.
Love it. I missed that. I hadn't heard that one in a while.
I had not heard that one before.
I used to hear in the coaches' offices all the time, man. Hey, Tony, I want to ask you about this. So Texas has a number 1 ranked recruiting class coming in, right? Really talented freshmen. Yep. You were on a Texas team where a lot of talent was being recruited. Do you remember how you guys looked upon those freshmen coming in that were really highly ranked, right? I mean, programs like Texas, you get accustomed to it if you're winning. But for the older guys in the program, how did y'all respond to that? Because obviously it drives competition, right? But how did y'all respond to that? Because look, this is a class that's ranked 1. It's getting a lot of hype, a lot of really good players. But as older players, kind of how does that process work in the locker room for you guys?
Jerry, so when I was in high school, man, there was a guy that I played with. His name was Daniel. And I tell you right now, man, this guy was ripped up, man. This is like bodybuilder one-on-one, man. This dude had abs on top of abs on top of abs. And so when you looked at him, this dude was a physical specimen. So everybody had their thought process about this guy. Like, man, this dude is finna go out here and crush everybody. Like, we're winning state. Ain't no way around it, right? So we get out there with shorts on, and this dude is flying around. I'm like, big dude, about 240, you know what I mean? Benching 315 in high school, you know, for reps, like crazy stuff, right? So we're like, oh, man. So then we get to the part to where it's time to put the pads on. And I distinctly remember him getting blown up like every single play. Like, this dude was getting trucked, pancaked, you name it. I mean, just terrible. And as we're in the drill across from the field, I hear the linebacker coach say, God damn it, Daniel, you got a body like Tarzan, but you play like Jane. And that stuck with me, right? So I say that to say, none of this stuff matters. I don't care about your ranking. I don't care about how highly you were recruited. When we put the pass on, that's when we're going to find out if you're a player or not. And that's how these young guys are going to earn the respect of the older guys. Like, we got to be able to see you do it when it counts. We got to be able to see you do it when it matters. The fact that you look great in shorts and a jersey, that's wonderful. The game ain't played that way. And when your body is hurting, can we still get the same production? So those are things that we'll find out along the season. But when we talk about what's getting ready to go down when it comes time to putting these pass on, that's the only way we're going to find out what type of player you are, because that's where the game is played.
Tony, you're looking at it right now, and we're all just waiting for this. How much, like, I did an interview over the weekend, and I was talking about somebody. I talked to a guy, and I explained to him that, you know, 50% of a recruiting class usually hits, and 50% usually don't make a dent, right?
Yeah.
How soon do you know on most of the players whether or not they're actually going to be players when they show up on campus? Like that, just thinking back to the guys you came in with, okay?
Yeah.
Because I want to get a player's thought on this. It's a broad perspective thing for me. I look at it from a sheer numbers perspective. You sign 25, 12 or 13 are really going to contribute to your team, okay? Yeah. How soon do you know who most of those guys are when you arrive on campus? Is it the very next day or the first day y'all go work out, or does it really evolve over time? Like, do you know 7 or 8 right away and then the other 4 or 5 over time? How does that work when you're building a team? And I'm just thinking, because Sark made mention he's got 27 new faces. He talked about this on Monday.
Yeah.
You know, in my opinion, other than the portal transfers, of those 22 new signees, historically, it tells me 11 to 12 of those guys, and this is any school in the country, are going to be the guys. Mm-hmm. Think back to your class. How quickly did you know, like, who would and wouldn't be really a part of the nexus of the team, I guess, is the best way?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, Bobby. And I definitely respect your work in that. You got a lot of years and experience when it comes to those numbers. So for me, what I saw is there's going to be guys that come in that are like, man, these guys have the ability to be generational talents. I'll give you an example. When Ramon Taylor came in, we had the very first like practice, I was like, yeah, this cat is special, right? When Brian Arakpo came in and we had like the very first practice, I was like, oh yeah, this cat is special, right? So there are certain players to where you can see measurements, how they perform in the weight room, how they move and things of that nature, to where you have a speculation period about what you believe this person is going to be. But honestly, Bobby, just for me, man, the only time we can really tell is when we string a couple of practices together. We have our thought processes, right, and our hypothesis of what we believe a player is going to be. But until you put hands on hands and you got to fight off double teams and, break the cornerback's belt and catch balls contested, like we don't know. We have an ability. We have the thought process of what it is. Like, think about it from this perspective, Bobby. Like Matthew Golden. We all knew that Matthew Golden was a good player, but we didn't understand the caliber of player he was until he started making the type of plays that he did. And that was further down into the season, down the stretch, right? So the reality is, for me, at least personally, standing on the same thing that I said, as a player, like and you got to think about it. This is coming not only from a player. Let's look at it from a position standpoint. Like, I'm an offensive lineman, so like for us, at the end of the day, if you don't have toughness about yourself, if you don't have a certain love for your teammates, there's a whole bunch of things that goes into that position, because that's the only position on the field where all 5 guys got to be right at the same time, right? So the level of amplitude that we have to have, and the respect that we have to be able to say that this guy is a player. If we say that guy's a player, that guy's a player, but he's a player predicated on all the things that he's did prior to, not just what he's done on the field. So that's when they get the nod from us. So when I look at it,
that's the question I have. Like, say, did half of the guys you came in with, you know what, that dude's going to be a player after one spring practice, say that dude's probably going to be a player. This dude may not be. How long does that take?
Usually for me, I look at it, it takes about a couple weeks. I'd say like 2 to 3 weeks into that practice. And the reason why is because you got to think about it, right? You talk about the habit forming aspect, right? It's 21 days to create a habit. When that person has shown up consistently and has come in and has dominated consistently for that amount of time, you know this guy's going to be a guy, right? So I give it a 3-week period. But look, that's and I want this to be clear. This is my perspective on what I've seen, right? Yeah, because there's been times where and the reason I took that approach is because I know I'm human like everybody else. I fall into the numbers and things of that nature. I've been wrong about people before. Like, I've thought that there's been certain players, of course I'm not gonna call them out, but I've looked at certain players and I've been talking to my guys like, yo, bro, I think this one of those ones. And they're like, I don't know, I don't see it to you. Like, no, I think he one of those ones, because he's showing some things. But then what happens is the war of attrition, Bobby. It's not just about the talent. And I think that's going to be a nugget for people that's listening to this show to be able to understand. It's not just about the talent. Football is a game of attrition. Like, it is a man's sport. Like, when your body is feeling great, of course you're going to make all the plays. But when those elbows start aching, when those knees start aching, when that oblique is torn, when that rotator cuff is out of place, when you have that hernia, you know what I mean? But you still got to go out there and perform. Now we get to see really who you are as a player, not just predicated off of talent. So it's more than just a talent-based thing. When we talk about these recruits and these young guys coming in, what do you want to see from them? You want to see consistency. You want to see effort. You want to see them moving around with their hair on fire. If they have those particular things, and playing through injury, if they can do those 4 things, then you know that you got a guy. But I can't just look at a guy from a talent standpoint and say, oh, he's the dude, because you ain't been putting your face in the fan yet. You ain't putting that melting pot. I need you to be in that melting pot. I gotta know when you go to the trainer, you're not there, like I said, club in the tub. Like, nah, they gotta hold you back to get you off the field. I'll give you an example. Give me Michael Taft. That guy's a player, not just predicated off his talent, but he is literally, and I quote, I will die on this field. Now, is that the greatest place to lose a life? I don't know. But the mentality of the mentality that he has, that's a part of, is this guy a player or not? So I look at all of that.
Hey, Tony, I want to follow up with something, because this is a great conversation. We've never had this type of conversation with you. So I said, what makes these jobs more difficult than people think in terms of winning is there's going to be certain guys that are happy being a part of a program like the University of Texas, running out from under the tunnel, the benefits of that, right? Whether that's on the field, off the field, now even your NIL world. Not naming names, how many guys on the teams you played on did you say, that guy's really just happy to be here? He doesn't really care about being the best player he can be.
Oh, man. Oh, so from a collegiate standpoint or just period?
Collegiate standpoint. I mean, not without naming names, but did you come across a few of those guys that they were just happy running out from the tunnel?
I mean, absolutely. There's a couple of things. I'll give you one more, Jerry. Not just coming out of the tunnel, having a particular expectation on where you thought you were supposed to be on the roster predicated on your ranking, as opposed to you coming in and putting in the work. And now you've been challenged the first time ever in your life. You ain't the dude no more. and somebody else is more hungrier than you, somebody wants it better than you do, and they end up getting it. And now you, instead of you coming back and clawing and fighting for that position or fighting for a position, you fall off, right? So I've seen it from both standpoints. As it pertains to the quantitative measure of that, Jerry, I can promise you I don't know, because I didn't care, right? And what I meant by I didn't care is if you're the type of player that will allow this adversity to stop you from being a part of something that's great, then why in the hell would I waste my time trying to figure out and count who those particular individuals are? No, the only the strong are going to survive. Listen, the credo is this: when you're coming to Texas, and I love the fact that Mad Dog used to preach this, but he used to say this all the time, and this was the credo: the pride and the winning tradition of Texas football shall not be bestowed on the weak nor the timid. So if you are weak and you are timid, you're not going to survive. And I'm not going to waste the most important thing that I have, my time, on weak and timid people. Because in this arena, they don't make it, period. And you know, like I know, that if you're around those type of people too long, eventually you'll start to take on some of that mentality. It's like the molded apple in the bag, right? You got one molded apple in a barrel full of apples that are all healthy. Leave that one molded apple there long enough and see what happens. Get rid of the cancer, man. And that's literally how we thought. Like, you guys are getting an insight on why we did the way we did when we played. It's because we literally were like this. Like, if you're not a part of the team and you're not going to fight your way into it, like, we had guys that would never get an opportunity to play on the field, that came to practice every day ready to work. I had more respect for those guys than these guys that were quote unquote 4- and 5-star players that would quit just because it ain't going my way. Bro, I wish the transfer portal was there when I was there, because I would have told you to take your ass and get in it. Like, get out of here, bro.
Bo Davis.
We don't need that type of.
You just went Bo Davis, Tony Hills.
I was going to say, Bo Davis must have made you happy when he said that, huh?
Oh my gosh! Listen. I had it on repeat because he was right. He was right. And look. Here's the thing, too, guys. Check this out. And Blake, you'll appreciate this. What happened after that rant?
Thing
You
turned.
started to slowly. Thank you. Because what happened is you had let mediocrity be at Texas for so long that it permeated throughout the entire athletic program. Like mediocrity. That's the reason why fans were so upset, right? Because you had this prominent school that was winning. Like, a bad season was 10 wins. Like, dang, I can't believe we only won 10 games. It went from that to, I hope we can win 10 games. How does that happen? It happens because you start to switch the mentality of who you were, and you start to let things creep in, and that's what happened.
You mentioned that about players in college. There were quite a few, kind of, it sounds like, that were just there to be there. They weren't really attacking adversity. I would assume once you get to the NFL, that is very minimal. I mean, there may be a couple of, or 2 or 3 that are just malcontents, maybe because they don't have the best contract or something like that. But the guys that have overcome adversity, they in the NFL, it's different, right? I mean, I'm just thinking, my brain's trying to recognize that once you go from college to the NFL, you're talking about a different caliber of player, a different caliber of overall commitment over a longer period of time.
Yeah. The thing is that in the NFL, everything happens faster. So if you take on that mentality, I mean, look, man, when I talk to these college kids and these high school seniors that are looking to get to the next level, the thing that I talk about, you guys know I'm in the financial space, so I talk numbers, right? You got 364 D1 schools. They cut the roster down from 115, 120 to 105. That's roughly a little bit over 38,000 D1 caliber players. You got 32 teams on a 53-man roster spot with 17 practice squad guys. That's roughly under 2,300 opportunities for 38,000 people. If you believe that you're going to get into the NFL and you're not going to have to bust your ass every single day. And when I say every single day, I mean 365 days out of the year, because every year somebody is losing their job. So yeah, no, that is very minimal. When you start seeing guys getting disgruntled and things like that, majority of the time, those disgruntled guys are the guys that have already got paid, or they're up for a payday because they've already proven their worth. But when it comes to, oh, I'm just happy to be here in the NFL, oh yeah, nah, bro, you're not gonna listen. Listen, I've seen guys come in. I've seen guys come in, Bobby, Jerry, and Blake. I've met them on a Tuesday. They were gone the next Tuesday. Like it's a cutthroat industry. You know what I mean? And so, hell, I've experienced it. Came in, I was like, oh yeah, I know I've got this team. And now, oh hey, Grim Reaper want to see you. Like, hold on, bro. Like y'all had me penciled in as the starter. What happened? Right? Things change, right? So nah, you can't have that mentality at all. And I think that a lot of like fans, they ask about that. Like, does the NIL, will that shift the mentality of the NFL, you know, from those guys going to the NFL because they're already making money? Not for the guys that love football. For the guys that love money, they're gonna get money, and then they'll get opportunity, and they'll be out in less than 3 years. For the guys that love football, they're going to go in there and they're going to give it all they got, because it was never about the money for them. It was about the love of the game and them wanting to be the best. So you're going to have a little bit of balance on both sides, but I think it's going to lean more towards the football guys.
Hey, Tony, last thing I had for you, and thanks for the extended time today, is this. So we're coming up on the NFL draft, and we just had the combine, right? And I'm asking specifically about quarterbacks because they're under the microscope, always leading up to the NFL draft. You played with one of the great ones.
Yeah.
So outside of everything we see at a combine, outside of everything that's going to be the tape that's being broken down, right, on all these guys leading up to draft time, you as a former offensive tackle in the NFL that played with a Hall of Fame level guy, what is it? What's the difference? What is really the difference for all these guys at the quarterback position that you played with, the guys you know? What's it really going to come down to for those guys outside of what we see and hear about?
Listen, so I won a Super Bowl with Ben Roethlisberger. Had a stint with Peyton Manning. That Tim Tebow run was crazy. And played with Andrew Luck as a rookie. I can tell you right now, the greatest quarterback that I've ever played with, ever in my life, by far, is Drew Brees. And it had nothing to do with the immense amount of talent that he had. Drew Brees was the first one in the locker room and the last one to leave every single time. At double-digit years in his career. Having a family, having a wife, the whole thing. You know what I mean? Like, first one in, last one out. Drew Brees was a leader of men. He was a leader of men. And so what I meant by that is this guy would go out and throw for 400-something yards, 4 or 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. We lose, get on the podium, and the first thing he says is, I got to play better. So, like, we're looking at this man like, bro, no, we got to play better. I get it. We understand that you're our fearless leader, but, bro, you literally had a perfect game. Freaking QBR 91. We got to be better. But the reason why I respected it so much is he took on the onus that if we're going to win, it starts with how I prepare. And every time we lost, he played high. I caught Drew Brees because I wanted to beat him to the facility. I used to get there around 5 a.m. So I get there at 4:30 thinking, okay, I got to be the first one in this place. This dude is in a full sweat already reading the paper, saying, hey, what's up, T? Like, the amount of commitment that this man had, I had never seen in my life. So when you're looking for a quarterback, you're looking for a guy that can lead men, that is going to take all the responsibility when the team is not moving the way that he wants to move, and is going to give all of the credit to the team when the team is winning. And the reason that is important is because it shows the mentality and the mindset and the tempo setter. This is who we are as a team. So that particular quarterback, he got to be somebody that can go in and galvanize a team when things are not going well, and steer the ship when things are not going well, and also be able to lead those people to the promised land, which Drew did. So those are some of the intangible things that I look at for a quarterback. Arm strength and all of that. Can you run a 4.5 That's great. But can you lead men? And one of the things that I've heard from people that have played with him is that that's the reason why they follow Jalen Hurts, because he's a leader of men, which is now he's had the success that he's had. So that intangible, I think, is what galvanizes teams when it comes to quarterbacks. And when you can find quarterbacks like that, it's special. I think Jay Daniels over there in Washington is similar. I mean, the year that he had, my God, as a rookie, right? So that, and that's how the veterans talk to this rookie in that manner. Hey, dude, you got the keys, lead us. How do you do that? Because there's something that he's shown on the intangible side that a guy that's 4, 5, 6, 7 years in the league say, you know what, I'll follow this dude. That's how you find your quarterback.
Love it.
Yeah, me too. All right, Tony, thank you so much for joining us this morning. And obviously, thanks for the extended time, as Jerry said.
Absolutely. Listen, I appreciate you guys, and we can never forget. I'll leave y'all with this because I know I've been on my preacher's soapbox today, but I cannot leave without letting y'all know that the time has changed. Make sure that you set your clock. But even in the time change of it being 8:59, OU still sucks. Hook 'em for life. Let's go.
Thanks, Tony. Have a good one.
That was a great conversation with Tony there. I mean, that's
new year. Hey, he started off strong with it being a new year. Whenever you're 40, then if you can't make the club in the tub.
He brought me back to like the coach's offices when I was a kid. That was awesome. Love it.
Yeah,
I think I've heard that 1,000 times from high school coaches over the years.
You can't make the club in the tub.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's an all-timer. And he played for Bill Barron, obviously at Elsick. You know Bill, former Texas player, is who Tony played for in high school. So I'm quite sure he heard the can't make the club in the tub a few times from Bill Barron over the years.
All right, guys, before we move on, I'm going to tell everyone out there about Mint Mobile. And I don't know about y'all, but I like keeping my money where I can see it. Unfortunately, those traditional big wireless carriers also seem to like keeping my money as well. And after years of overpaying for wireless, I finally got fed up from those crazy high wireless bills, the bogus fees, the free perks that actually cost more in the long run, and I switched to Mint Mobile. You can say bye-bye to your overpriced wireless plans, jaw-dropping monthly bills, and unexpected overages. Mint Mobile is here to rescue you with premium wireless plans starting at just $15 a month. All plans come with high-speed data, unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's 5G network. You can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan. Bring your own phone number. Of course, you'll get your contacts and all that good stuff too. But ditch overpriced wireless. Get 3 months of premium wireless service from Mint Mobile for just $15 a month. If you like your money, Mint Mobile is for you. Shop plans at mintmobile.com/ontexas. That's mintmobile.com/ontexas. Upfront payment of $45 for 3 month 5 gig plan required. That's equivalent to $15 a month. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Then full price plan options are available. Taxes and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details. And Jerry, I'm going to let you tell everyone about Joy Mode.
Yeah. This is not the ad read for the neutered animals out there. We're talking about erections. Say goodbye to weak erections with Joy Mode Sexual Performance Booster. This all-natural supplement is designed to enhance blood flow, seems positive, give me firmer, more reliable erections. But Joy Mode isn't just about better sex. Daily use supports healthier blood vessels, sounds positive, boosts heart health, good ticker, and enhances your athletic performance. Expertly formulated and backed by science, it's proven to improve erectile function by 50% in 60 days. Simply mix a pack with water and feel the effects within 45 minutes. Take control with Joy Mode. Get a boost anytime, anywhere, and never miss a beat, period. Joy Mode features 4 simple, proven ingredients. Unlike prescription options that improve doctor visits and managing pesky refills, Joy Mode provides a straightforward, effective solution. Join the over 200,000 men who trust Joy Mode to boost their performance without the side effects. Start a subscription and save up to 30%. Keep your performance at its best without any interruptions whatsoever. If you're looking to take your game to the next level, funny read, visit tryjoymode.com and use code ONTEXAS, all caps, at checkout for 20% off single purchases and 30% off subscription orders. That's Try joymode.com and use code ONTexas for 20% off single purchases and 30% off subscription orders. We'll find out at 2:30 if Texas had these on their plane to Nashville.
Thank you, as always, Jerry. And Bobby,
don't be scared about those neutered animals, you know.
That read's not for neuter. This route is not for the neutered animals.
Where did you come up with that? I mean, of all,
I don't know.
your brain is
Literally a second before the read.
there. You go.
Oh, all right. Over on ontexasfootball.com this morning, Bobby, you wrote that you needed some help. And
Yes.
you listed all the jersey numbers, and we're trying to figure out the greats at each number. I've asked people to head on over there and fill in, put in your suggestions as well. But I'm going to let you talk about that for a minute, Bobby.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is something I did I started about 5 or 6 years ago I was working with Ken Dabbs, the former recruiting coordinator at the University of Texas back in the 70s and 80s. So he saw a lot of these players. Ken has since passed away. So the numbers never really got finalized, but I was looking for the last 50 years. This was I wanted to go from 69 on. So guys like Bobby Lane and Tommy Nobis wasn't in there at number 22 and 60, and Scotty Appleton and Dyron Talbert, and those guys weren't in there. But I was looking from 1969 on, really the modern era of Texas football, and trying to figure out who were the best numbers or players to ever wear those numbers for the University of Texas. What was interesting to me is as I was going back through that list this week, started trying to go through it, is the number of players on recent teams that deserve consideration. I mean, Xavier Worthy, if you go back up to number 1, I mean, Xavier Worthy may be the best number 1 ever at the University of Texas. Now, the most impactful, I think, is Donnie Little, but the Xavier Worthy may be the best number 1 to ever play at Texas. Bijan Robinson, even though I love James Brown, is the best number 5 ever to play at the University of Texas. Number 78, Kelvin Banks, is the best number 78 to play at the University of Texas, even though Blake Brockermeyer himself, a first-round pick, right? And so I was going through this. Number 93, Tavondre Sweat. Who's the best 93 ever? Eric Holly, that's Shea Holly's dad, by the way.
Awesome.
The
Cool.
basketball player. He was on this list until Tavondre Sweat. Byron Murphy at 90. And is that him or Malcolm Brown? The first out of Brenham, Jerry.
Yeah.
Rod Wright, national champion. My point being, I was actually stunned by how many recent guys may truly be on this list. Jahdae Barron shares number 7 with Michael Huff now, right? So there's some guys in there that I think are interesting. But what I did is I want to ask others what they think, because the great thing about our community, in my opinion, is there are people that have been watching Texas football longer than me, and there are people that are younger that are saying, "Hey, don't forget about this guy." Whereas some younger guys may gloss over my brain at times. And so I put that out there. If you look on the board, it's titled Wednesday, I Need Your Help, I think is the title of the post. If you'll go over there and look at that and try to add your 2 cents, I guess is the best way to put it, I'd love it. And then maybe we can come out with a list where we may extend it, by the way, with some people's knowledge back into the 60s and 50s, where I just have no knowledge whatsoever, but also update it, into the Sam Ellingers of the world and that kind of thing. Although I don't think Sam's going to be number 11. That's a tough number at the University of Texas. I think Derek Johnson may have that one. But Colin Simmons, Jerry, you mentioned this I think it was on Sunday night or something. Colin Simmons may be a guy, right?
Yeah.
So the other thing that was interesting, there were no number 0s. And so now think about the guys that have worn 0 at Texas. They're all good players, basically. DeAndre Moore and Anthony Hill wear it right now. Well, Anthony Hill's probably the better of those two from a all-time jersey wear. But before that, you had JT Sanders and DeMarvion Overshow. I mean, Overshow was the first one to wear. That's 4 pretty good players in 3 years.
Yeah.
I mean, so I want to go over that and ask you guys to help, because I do think there's no – first of all, everybody has different opinions, but there are actually some things there that I could use help with. Like, I also – before he passed away as well, I had consulted with Bill Little on this list, the former Texas Sports Information Director, and he gave me some thoughts, et cetera. So I was trying to rekindle that and kind of update it, basically, to see what everybody thought.
Love it. All right, hey, Blake, I'm going to answer a question real quick here from the chat.
Good.
Who are the top running back targets from LL? Cooper and Edwards. I think there's 2 scheduled for OVs right now. KJ Edwards out of Carthage. We've had Scott Surratt on here, Coach Surratt from Carthage. He talked about KJ a little bit. And Xavier Crowell out of Jackson, Alabama, reclassed from 27 to 26, who was a top target of Tashard Choice before he moved on. Crowell's been on campus twice prior with his mom. We'll be back in a couple of weeks, late March, and then for June 6th through 8th official visit as well. Texas is in contact with some other guys, the Amari Latimers, Derek Coopers. So we'll see. And I was told that Texas is planning to get Amari Latimer back on campus. So we'll see who they get on campus this spring. Again, there's some where I think Texas is at in recruiting right now. This last weekend in March, there was some – this first weekend in March, I said last weekend, there were some massive NIL pushes for some players. And I think a kid's going to commit soon, but it'll just be to somewhere else. But Texas will hang around the rim, keep doing what they do. I think USC's making some massive pushes right now with some guys, just like they did last cycle. They didn't hold on to Isaiah Gibson. They didn't hold on to Justice Terry. So we'll see. But I think Texas right now is really focused on, and like Samuel Roseborough was on campus for a couple of days this week, but mom lives in Austin, spring break, natural. I think that big weekends for Texas is going to be that March 27th, 29th in that area code, and then April 12th. And then there'll be some guys in on April 26th that week as well. That's going to be dependent on when kids start spring practice in their state or at their high schools, as well as regional area track meet. There's a lot of things going on. But those are some weekends for Texas coming up. But those are running back wise. I'm interested to see if Chad Scott makes another offer out there. I'm not going to say it can't happen, because you got the spring evaluation period coming up. And so we'll see where things go there. There was another question here, Bobby, that I thought was really good. Do y'all think the SEC success of football revenue ratings is a direct or indirect effect of the rise in talent and ascension of other sports programs in the SEC? I don't. Yeah, look, here's the thing I would say. The SEC it was when Jadeveon Clowney, when he was coming out, a few years before that, the SEC really started winning the arms race and facilities, marketing of their conference. Like Jadeveon Clowney would have gone to FSU in the heyday of the Bobby Bowden era.
Yeah.
I mean, the SEC really, I thought they took a huge step in that area, in that time frame. Those early 2000s really started, I think, marketing the conference better, Bobby.
I know exactly when it happened.
Yeah.
Okay. It happened when Nick Saban went to LSU and Urban Meyer went to Florida. That's when it happened. That's when the SEC went from a really good football conference to a superpower, in my opinion. Yeah. Because Nick Saban professionalized LSU for the first time in its history, to be honest with you. I mean, he brought them in from the dark ages. They had always been an 8-4 program almost. And he ratcheted that thing up, kept the home talent home. And then Urban Meyer went on his run at Florida. And then Nick Saban left the NFL and went back to Alabama, and it just kept. I feel like it was twofold. It was football always first, and then secondarily, it was Nick Saban and Urban Meyer going to two juggernauts. Steve Spurrier kind of was maybe a starting point for some of that, but it was really Nick Saban and Urban Meyer.
Yeah, and it was about that time too, from when the SEC started winning the arms race and facilities too. They had massive facilities. So, like if you took kids from a 7-on-7 team in South Florida, and they traveled up and they did a college tour at Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, they saw a different world from a facility standpoint. And like before all these kids really started traveling around, they didn't really know what was out there. And then when they started traveling around, I think the SEC, it maybe in a timing point too, the SEC facilities kind of raced by everybody else's at a number of schools. And I think that benefited them as well, along with having great coaches, name coaches in the conference. I mean, you had Saban, you had Urban Meyer, like I said, you had Spurrier at South Carolina. In Bobby Bowden's heydays, Marcus Lattimore, Jadeveon Clowney, those guys go to FSU. And so it was an interesting kind of combination time there with the coaches having great success with the big name coaches. But I also think from a facility standpoint, they raced by everybody too. They're pretty smart in the arms race. But I don't know when the TV contracts, Bobby, really hit for them from a financial standpoint when they really took the big leap.
They started taking a leap when they created the SEC championship game.
Yep.
And it drew so many numbers. I think it was first one was Alabama, Florida, the year that I think Alabama won the national championship that year under Gene Stallings. The other thing that it coincided with, Jerry, in my opinion, this rise of the SEC in the 2000s, the failure or tailspin of Florida State, and Miami.
Yeah,
Miami had a 20-year run there that was really great, and so they were propping up the ACC. FSU and Miami were, and other teams were. The ACC actually had some other good teams. You mentioned Clemson during that time; they were okay. North Carolina was okay. Virginia Tech was actually becoming a better team, right, with Michael Vick and those kind of guys. So the ACC at one time was a stronger football conference than it is today. And the other team that kind of took some of the shine off of the SEC was Nebraska. You know, Nebraska at that time with Tom Osborne in the late 90s, mid to late 90s, was the team of college football.
Yeah.
And going from Solich to Pelini, et cetera, they kind of flickered out. Texas had its run in the 2000s. But you know, the SEC's, you can say it's the arms race of facilities, and I think that may be a piece of it. But, I mean, look, they've had the biggest home field advantage of all time because that's where the majority of the NFL talents exist.
That's right. Well, and that's the other piece of it. Like when you combine all that with FSU starting to go down and Miami having all their NCAA issues that cause them to go down, at the same time, the coaches come into SEC and the facilities take a massive leap. You know, if you think about just this, think about the guys from Florida that Nick Saban had. And if those guys had stayed at home and gone to Miami, the difference in the programs. Calvin Ridley, Jerry Jeudy, Amari Cooper. I mean, we can go on. Patrick Surtain, whose dad played at Southern Miss, but at the time was a head coach at American Heritage. Now he's with FSU, obviously. You go down the list of those guys, just on Alabama's team from the state of Florida and in South Florida that were first-round picks. Those guys were all Canes or Seminoles in the 90s, early 2000s. I
don't think it was the other sports that brought them up by any stretch. I think football brought the rest of the conference up personally. Basketball was always a one-trick pony with Kentucky. Alabama had been okay in basketball every so often. Florida had a run under Billy Donovan, but they were really the SEC. When you talk basketball, it started with Kentucky and ended with Kentucky for 25, 30 years at least.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see here. We got a question from, I just had it. Where did it go? Oh, Joshy Manning says, do you foresee any highs before the official visit slate?
I do. I do. I won't be surprised if, I think there's a couple right now that are in that category. It won't surprise me if there's 2 or 3 commitments to Texas prior to June official visits. Hey, here's a really good question. Isaiah Stewart, and I think this came from this conversation. Who do y'all think the sleeping giant is in college football right now? And I think the right now part is interesting. So Texas had become that again 5 years ago, right? People are like, oh, if they ever get the thing together. Is it USC right now, Bobby? If
you consider them asleep, yes.
And I consider them asleep, kind of like now.
They've got some traction right now in recruiting because they hired a new GM that's kind of injecting some energy that maybe Lincoln Riley lacked. But their problem has not been players. I think they're going to have a whale of an NIL component. So I would say that they are the sleeping giant. I mean, a part of me, and I just mentioned a program that I think is got tremendous pedigree, and that's Nebraska. But I just don't know if modern age of college football is made for Nebraska.
Nah.
So
some of the people in the chat had a good one. Florida's similar to Texas in that regard.
But I don't think they're not going to be asleep with DJ Lagway, dude. They passed the test last year. In my opinion, they're ready to roll. North Carolina is not. North Carolina will never be a football first school. SMU, I mean, them and their 20,000 fans are not a giant. Now, them and their money maybe.
Yeah.
So I would say that.
I think the two right now that if you say they're under where you would expect them to be, and if they ever take that big next step, that's kind of what I consider a sleeping giant that has been there before. I think USC and Florida are probably your two right now in college football. Because the reality is, if Billy Napier goes 8-4 this year, they're going to want him gone with the talent. They're going to want him gone. Same thing at USC. Those guys get the 10 wins, then, you start. James Franklin's got Penn State maybe in that position now. He's finally gotten the playoff. He has a bunch of guys back. So is he going to take that next step this year? But the programs that, for me, that have been there recently and have been down to what you think they should be are probably USC and Florida.
Is LSU asleep right now?
A little bit, but they've had such a good run. Yeah.
Oklahoma, are they asleep right now? They have been since Venables got there.
Yeah. Miami's always an interesting one too, but they're Miami's got some things going against them. And I'm interested to see if Cristobal or whoever can ever get them there. For those that haven't been to Miami, and Bobby has, he can speak to this. Their stadium is not as far away from campus.
It's not. They pre-party and then don't go to the game.
Right. And so you have to battle. Do you want to go 40 minutes west to go to the college football game, or do you want to go 20 minutes east and go to South Beach on a Saturday? I mean, and then facilities-wise, great university. Facilities-wise, they're way behind. They're just way behind. If you're talking about who's coming in to recruit your kids in South Florida right now? Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State. I mean, you can't. Texas you can't compete facilities-wise with it right now. And so they have some interesting things going against them that one of the fun conversations is didn't affect them in the 80s and early 90s. That's where things have really changed. Is there wasn't 7-on-7 and these kids weren't getting out and seeing the world. Now these kids get out and see the world. And so they see, wait, your facilities don't compare. Your game day atmosphere is not really good. Miami has some real hurdles they have to overcome now. Maybe they can do it through the NIL space, but they have maybe more hurdles than anybody else we talk about.
Yeah, I would take those hurtles versus those of Nebraska.
Right. No. I think Nebraska's kind of
look, I mean, or SMU's hurdles versus that. Nebraska's problem is they don't have enough endemic talent around them to compete at a high level. So they have to rely almost exclusively with regional prospects or hit gold on somebody that everybody else is recruiting. Now, maybe they did that with Dylan Raiola, right? But my take on it is I'd rather be in Miami's shoes than anybody's. LSU, and when I say, look, they haven't been elite. I mean, they had a great offense under Jaden Daniels, but they haven't been elite under Brian Kelly. Ed Orgeron had a poor final 2 years. Been about half dozen years since they've been nationally relevant, I think. That's kind of sleeping. USC is kind of sleeping. To your point, Jerry, I mean, Texas has made the college football playoffs twice. Penn State's made it. Tennessee's made it. FSU, they were 13-0 last year, guys. Now they got knocked out. Like they had a TKO last year and went, 2-10 or whatever it was. I don't know.
Well, I'll throw one out. We're 2 more 7 and 5s away from calling Oklahoma that.
Well, no, I mentioned them. I mean, that's Venables. It's very funny. By the way, I was talking about that podcast earlier, and everybody likes to say A&M is a sleeping giant. That's been their all we got to do is get all our efforts marching in the right direction. And I did this interview with a guy named Mike Bratton at the SEC podcast, and Mike, not me, Mike brought this up. He goes, do you realize, Bobby, in the last 27 years, A&M has not been any better than 8-4, but 2 times?
Yep.
He goes, 25 of 27 years, the best they've been is 8-4. He goes, I call them Texas 8-4 instead of Texas A&M. I did not make that up. I can't take credit for it, but I enjoyed that a little bit. I mean, everybody likes to talk about A&M and how they're a sleeping giant. Maybe they are, but they've been asleep for a long, long freaking time.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you're ranking the SEC football programs, you would have them clearly behind Auburn. And I don't think A&M fans believe that. But Auburn, that is a program that, has done more in the same position. Because obviously Auburn to Alabama. And Texas has had many down years. But Auburn has won a national title since 10. They've played for a national title. They've had several top 10 finishes over that point in time. If you're sitting there ranking the SEC programs, maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll make a graphic and rank them and let the chat have fun with that. You would have Auburn ahead of A&M. So where would A&M fall? Right now, today, where would they fall? Good question for the chat.
All right, speaking of chat, we got a couple more questions to get to. But before we do that, first, Jerry, break out the sunglasses and tell us how it doesn't get better than gooder.
Man, it doesn't get better than gooder. I'm going to have mine on later when I take a little walk, I think. All right. Why gooder? They're stylish sunnies, starting only $25 a pair. There's a 1-year warranty and 30-day free returns. They just got to tell you that. You don't need them. Lightweight and comfortable, 100% polarized, no slip, no bounce. From vibrant colors to sleek styles, they're a pair of gooders for every personality out there. Designed for both everyday wear and active individuals that love to run, hike, bike, and more. I wear them cycling, at the beach, at a practice field, right? Coming up, a lot of spring practices coming up, and anywhere you want, pickleball, tennis, whatever you like to do. These are the glasses to wear because they're so affordable, you don't have to worry about losing or breaking them. You can have a pair for every occasion. If you need a new pair of sunnies, Gooder is giving On Texas football listeners free shipping. You can go to gooder.com/OnTexas, all caps, and use that code OnTexas, all caps, for free shipping. I have to read this part. You don't need it. Gooder offers a 30-day money-back guarantee. Put it in the trash. 100% satisfaction. I guarantee you that. Again, that's gooder.com/OnTexas, all caps, for free shipping.
Thank you, Jerry and Bobby. One last time about Adam Lowy and the Lowy Law Firm.
Yeah, one of the good friends of our program is Adam Lowy. There's no two ways about it. He has supported us from the outset. Please support him if you get an opportunity or need a consultation about an injury in a car accident and think you might be due compensation. That's LowyLawFirm.com. He's been helping injured Texans for 20 plus years. He and his firm, they operate there out of their office, Austin office, but operate statewide and even take some national cases as well. LowyLawFirm.com. That's Adam Lowy and his group. If you've been injured in a car wreck, truck wreck, automobile accident of any kind, including ATV, 18-wheeler, or motorcycle, give him and his group a call. LowyLawFirm.com. Thanks, Adam. Appreciate you. He's also giving away a lot of tickets to Texas basketball, men's and women's of late.
Definitely.
Oh, by the way, we haven't hit on it, Blake, real quick. Women's selections Sunday coming up. Still a 1 seed in bracketology. Still sitting with UConn as the 2 seed in their bracket. That doesn't mean it's going to be the way it shakes out. I think UConn's being undervalued in this tournament. I'm going to go ahead and say it right now. I doesn't make sense to me, but whatever. They're one in NCAA.net in the women's side, and yet they're going to be a 2 seed. I think people are going to underseed them. What does it matter? It matters a lot if you're playing them in the Elite 8, and they should be a 1 seed legitimately. So we'll see where all the bracketology shakes out. That is Sunday. Obviously, men's basketball plays at 2:30 today. Depending on what happens there, could be an interesting week, Bobby.
Speaking of basketball, we got the super chat here from Jeff Carey. Look for Trey Johnson to bounce back after an embarrassing performance and play great today.
Let's have it. Let's have it, Trey. Go out the right way, dude.
Look, Trey Johnson has improved this year defensively, reading doubles, some of those things, right? Reading where the help's coming from a split second earlier, right? He's improved this year as a player. He works. One of the things Tony Hill was talking about earlier, that is Trey Johnson. And you've heard all the commentators talk about this year when they get to the practice facility, he's in the practice facility. It's why Trey Johnson, that's why I'm not hesitant to throw out Rip Hamilton or Ray Allen. Could he have one of those careers? I think he can have one of those careers because of how hard he works. It's one thing to be a top 5 talent and a top 7 draft pick, wherever he ends up being. But ever since he got to Austin, and when he went from Lake Highlands to Link Academy, by the way, first guy in the gym, last guy out. So he is that guy. And so his success individually, he's just going to continue to reach new levels, I think. And he knows taking the court today, this could be his last game at Texas. I think he'll bounce back as long as he doesn't put too much into that. He just had a bunch of rim outs last game. He didn't play bad. But that guy's going to be a tremendous player in the NBA for many years, and hopefully continues to represent Texas.
Obsession and passion can overcome a lot of shortcomings. And or if you don't have shortcomings, it can make you great. Yeah. I'm just telling you. And maybe that's where you talk about Ray Allen and Rip Hamilton and comparing them to Trey Johnson. Maybe that's where he makes it happen. He cares. He has that passion. That's great to see.
I'm going to respond to this because James, he said UConn plays nobody. I don't care. I go by the eye test, man. That's a 1 seed team. They're not a 2 seed. They beat South Carolina by 30 on their own home court.
Are you talking about women? Okay.
Yes. I don't care. I go by the eye test. They're good. Really, really good. They haven't been healthy the last 4 years. They're actually healthier this year. Knock on wood for them, I guess.
Their coach knows how to get it done too.
Yeah. I don't look. They're a 1 seed level team. We'll see. We'll see who gets there.
Our next super chat comes from Jack. Thank you as always, Jack. And he says, with the proclivity of 7-on-7 in Texas, why aren't high school linebackers better prepared in pass coverage in college, or am I wrong?
Great question. I think it's because they rush the passer at the high school level. I think you see in the spread game, you see more of those guys spin down. There's very few guys and one of the things that intrigues me so much about Elijah Bo Barnes, Bobby, a lot of times he would have been playing off the edge exclusively in high school. At 6'2 and a half, 240. Coach Coleman and Peter Jenkins didn't do that with him at Skyline. He played in space. A lot of those guys don't play like that at the high school level in Texas due to spread football. And you got to put pressure on the quarterback. So it's a natural spin down for guys in high school football. And I do think it's what makes the linebacker position pretty difficult to evaluate in this state.
I'll just say this. They're better prepared now, Jack, than they used to be. I think it's a hard ask, actually, is part of it, to be an in-the-box linebacker and understand pass coverage. But I'll give you this much. I mean, they're much better now than they used to be. I remember when I first started in the 90s, you rarely got linebackers that could even understand pass coverage beyond just manning up against the tight end or manning up against a running back out of the backfield. Now they understand coverages better, I think, as a whole. The question you have that I think is legitimate is how come they're not elite, given all the reps they have? And maybe it's just a hard thing to do. But I think actually, like Anthony Smith was very well prepared. Leonga Lafau was very well prepared in pass duties. Anthony Hill may not have been because, like Jerry said, he's a come downhill guy. You know, he wants to get after the quarterback, spy the quarterback, that sort of thing. So you're talking about different elements, but they used to be, I'll just be blunt, that Texas linebackers hit like a ton of bricks, but didn't cover anybody out of the backfield. That was their old MO. In the last 20 years, it's changed to where they're much more mixed in that regard.
And our last one for today comes from Blake May. Thank you, Blake. Who would be on your dream Texas team at quarterback, running back, 2 wide receivers, and tight end if they could all play together? I think quarterback's a no-brainer.
That sits in there with that jersey number discussion we had. VY, Earl Campbell.
Mm-hmm.
Man, Jordan Shipley and Roy Williams or Xavier Worthy. Boy, those are my 3 wide receivers, although I only get 2, right? Tight end for me would be probably David Thomas or Bo Scaife. I still think Bo Scaife's like one of the more underrated players in Texas history. That's mine. What about you, Jerry?
Modern day football. Probably
like 2000s.
Ricky Williams at running back.
Okay, that's fine.
Ricky Williams at running back.
He's 1998 or 99. Something like
just catch the ball out of back. Modern game of football. I would say the second wide receiver is a tough one.
Who's the first? Jordan Shipley?
Oh, Roy Williams.
Roy Williams, okay.
I think Roy Williams is one of the 5 or 6 most gifted players I've seen at Texas, period.
Yeah, I can see that.
But most gifted athletes. I didn't even mention quarterback. Why? Tight end, I would go with David Thomas because of the all-around play.
Yep.
I think this just the all-around play of David Thomas.
I'm good with that.
The guy never dropped the ball. I mean, he never. I don't think he really ever missed a blocking assignment. That doesn't mean he doesn't get beat, because there's one-on-ones where you're going to get beat. I'm not sure he missed a blocking assignment his last 2 years at Texas. I'm guessing he would have graded out in the very high 90s. I mean, that's a very productive football player that also could play on special teams.
0 mental errors is what you're talking about.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm good with that. Look, I think, yeah, I'm good. We didn't have a discussion about quarterback. How come?
No.
That's a no-brainer.
Well, let's see what Arch does. How about that?
There you go.
Somebody needs to win a national championship, even with what Colt did, right? Somebody has got to win a national championship to be on the same par as Vince. That's the reality.
Yeah.
Let
let me answer this real quick. the UConn, because we got a lot going on. By the way, I'm not saying the UConn women are going to win it all. I think, look, you can throw 7 teams, 8 teams in the bucket, 7 teams in the bucket right now, and everybody might pick somebody else to win it. I think they're one, and I don't. It's a difference between how they were the first part of the year to where they are now. For the UConn women, they hadn't been healthy in 3 or 4 years. He hadn't really had his key pieces healthy. So he had to get those girls, women, used to playing together again. And I know they don't play because of the conference, but I think he's got them kind of playing together well again. And I'm not saying they're going to win it all. I think there's 7 teams you could throw in the bucket and say, one of those 7 can win it. And they're one of those 7. I'm not saying they're going to win. I think they're playing at a 1 seed. I think they should be a 1 seed. I think they've come together really well as a team. Doesn't mean they're going to win it though.
All right, well, that's going to do it for today's episode of Coffee and Football, presented by Adam Lowy and the Lowy Law Firm. I want to thank them, along with Gooder, Joy Mode, and Mint Mobile Law, for sponsoring today's show. Of course, thank you all for tuning in. The great questions, the super chats. Big shout out to Tony Hills, as always, for Hump Day with Hills. Bobby, what do you have later today?
Later today, we've got the state of the program. We're going to talk a little Longhorn football, basketball, and recruiting. Then we also have the live stream tonight. Texas plays basketball today, 2:30 against Vanderbilt in Nashville. I'll be at the game a little bit later. Is this Rodney Terry's swan song, and Trey Johnson's, et cetera? We'll find out. The Longhorns, to Jerry's point, for the first time in a while, do have a full accoutrement of players. Not only is Tremont Mark going to be available, but also Kendall Weaver will be back in action, the guard / do-it-all kind of guy for the Longhorns. So will that matter? And will take Texas to make a run in the SEC tournament. Rodney Terry's job likely depends on it.
And don't forget, we can't be live all the time, so head on over to ontexasfootball.com. Become a member very easily. Use promo code OTFOG. Get that annual subscription for just $49.95. Again, that's promo code OTFOG. And we'll be back same time, same place tomorrow. So for Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton, I'm Blake Monroe, and we'll see